Welcome back to part 2 to this story. If you haven't seen part 1, it is recommended that you watch that first to understand what is happening in this story. There will be a link in the description below. Enjoy the story. It had been around a week since me and my best friend Luke had seen the premiere of a new movie together. It had been a crazy day. Due to Luke only having tickets for a couple's viewing, he tricked me into transforming into a girl for the day, something that I didn't even know was possible. We hadn't talked much since that day due to us both being busy. That was until earlier today. Luke had called me out of the blue asking if I wanted to meet up. I was free, not having anything planned, so I agreed. I drove over to Luke's house and met him at his door. He invited me in, and we went up to his room. "Hey, Daniel, thanks for coming over on such short notice," he said to me. "No worries, bro, I had nothing else better to be doing. Is there anything you want to do?" I asked Luke. "Well, actually, I wanted you to come over because I have a question to ask you. Would you want to come on holiday with me and my parents?" Luke asked me. "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." "That would be awesome, Luke," I said back excitedly. "I'm glad to hear that. There is a catch, though. You would be going as my girlfriend," Luke said back to me. Luke's response really caught me off guard. After the transformation last week, I was hoping we would be putting this stuff behind us. "Why would you want me to go as a girl, though? I thought we agreed we wouldn't do any more of this transforming stuff," I said to Luke, still wondering why he wanted me to become a girl again. Luke began to explain to me that after the movie premiere, he had shown his parents a photo of himself and me as a girl and told them I was his girlfriend. Apparently, his parents were excited that he had gotten a girlfriend and asked if I wanted to join them on a holiday to the Bahamas that they already had planned so they could get to know me. Luke really wanted me to go so he could show his parents he could find a girlfriend. He also said that I wouldn't have to pay for anything as his rich parents had offered to pay for me. To be honest, it sounded pretty good for me. All I would have to do is spend a few days as a girl and pretend to be Luke's girlfriend around his parents. And in exchange, I would get a free trip to the Bahamas. I still wasn't sure if it was worth it, though. I didn't want to become a girl again. "So, Daniel, will you do it?" Luke asked me, clearly hoping I would say yes. After a few seconds of thought, I came up with my answer. "You know what? I'll do it, but this will be the last time. I'm only doing it for the holiday," I said back to Luke, still not 100% sure that it was worth it. "That's awesome, bro. I really appreciate it," Luke said back to me before giving me a hug. We were supposed to be leaving for the trip in only 2 days, so there was a lot to prepare. Luke seemed eager to start getting ready straight away. Luke also told me that I should stay at his house the night before the trip so we could all go to the airport together. That meant I only had 1 day left in my own body before I would transform into a girl before the trip. Before then, me and Luke had to prepare a bunch of new girl clothes for me. Luke also told me to try and learn some more about how girls act and do things, so his parents wouldn't realize I wasn't actually a girl. We quickly decided that we would order the clothes online as neither of us wanted to be seen shopping for girls' clothes in person, so we loaded up Amazon and started looking through things to buy. It was going to be a 3-day-long trip, so we needed to buy quite a bit. After around an hour of shopping, we were finished. We had picked out a lot of different clothing, including dresses, tops, shorts, and a few other things. Luke also told me we would be doing a lot of swimming, so he bought me a bikini too, which I wasn't looking forward to wearing. We bought everything and paid the extra cost for 1-day delivery. The rest of the day was spent learning more about how girls act and the things they do. Luke helped me with a lot of it. I must admit that it was all pretty embarrassing, but I guess it was important. I could only imagine how embarrassing it would be if Luke's parents found out I wasn't really a girl while on holiday. Eventually, me and Luke decided we had done enough for 1 day. We decided that we would meet up the next day at my apartment to do the transformation. We would then get everything ready and go back to Luke's house to meet his parents and spend the night there. We would then be leaving the day after that. It sounded like a solid plan, so I left Luke's house and drove home. The rest of the day for me was fairly boring. I spent most of it watching TV and thinking about the holiday. I was really looking forward to spending some time in the Bahamas, even if I would have to be a girl for it. The next day, I woke up at 11 in the morning and realized that I had slept in. Luke was supposed to be arriving in an hour and a half. I rushed through my morning routine, showering and getting myself ready to see Luke. When Luke arrived, I went to greet him and let him into my apartment. "Hey, Luke, come in, bro," I said while gesturing to him to come in. "Hey, Daniel, looking forward to becoming a girl again?" he asked me jokingly. I rolled my eyes and then responded to him. "Not really. I am looking forward to the Bahamas trip, though," I said back. "Fair enough. Let's get the transformation over and done with then," Luke said back. Luke gave me the same clothes I had worn last time I had transformed into a girl and told me to go and change into them. I went into my bedroom and undressed before putting on the clothes. Like the last time, the bra changed my chest area, the pants changed my crotch area, the skirt changed my hips and legs, and the crop top changed my whole torso. I finished off with the necklace that completely changed my head and face, finishing my transformation into the same beautiful brunette I had been a week ago. Looking in my mirror and seeing myself as a girl again was even stranger than the last time I had done it. Even though I enjoyed being in a girl's body, I had told myself I wouldn't do it again. So much for that. "Well, I'm done," I said to Luke before leaving my bedroom to see him. "Wow, you look even better than you did last week." "I can't wait to show you to my parents," said Luke. I shrugged off Luke's compliment, instead focusing my attention on the bag Luke was holding. "Thanks, I guess. What's in that bag?" I asked. "This is going to be your bag for the holiday. It has all the things you might need as a girl, and it's different from your normal bag so my parents won't suspect anything," said Luke. I took the bag from him and started to look through what was inside. Some of the things inside included deodorant, a makeup kit, and a hairbrush. "Well, I guess some of this might actually be useful for me, thanks," I said. "Yeah, I thought you would appreciate it anyway. Do you want to head over to my house now?" Luke asked me. I decided that we would, so I gathered the last things I would need before leaving my apartment and locking the door. The drive over to Luke's house was mostly spent talking about what we would be doing in the Bahamas. Just before we were about to arrive, though, Luke reminded me that I would have to pretend I had never met his parents before. I hadn't even realized that his parents wouldn't know who I was now that I was a girl, so I was glad Luke had reminded me. After getting out of Luke's car, I grabbed my bag and went to meet Luke's parents who were waiting for us. I kept reminding myself to try and act more feminine. I had practiced walking and talking like a girl the previous day and was trying my best to remember everything I had learned. I walked up to Luke's mom and dad and introduced myself as Danny while shaking hands with both of them. They were really friendly to me and invited me into their house. We all went to the living room, as they wanted to get to know me. Myself, Luke, and his parents spent a few hours chatting and getting to know each other. It was honestly a lot of fun, and I could tell they had no idea that they actually knew who I was. After a while of chatting, me and Luke headed up to his room to hang out for a bit. We played some video games together and talked to one another about the holiday tomorrow. The rest of the day was fairly uninteresting. After we had dinner, we both changed into our night clothes and went to bed early as we had to get up early in the morning. Luke and I were woken up at 5 a.m. by an alarm we had set. Waking up that early wasn't fun. I practically had to force myself to get out of bed and start getting ready for the day. I went through my normal morning routine, having a shower and eating breakfast. I also applied some basic makeup to my face, which I had learned from watching a tutorial online. I was pretty happy with the results. Once we were all ready, we all left Luke's house and got into a taxi heading for the airport. During the 30-minute drive, we spoke about what we were going to be doing on holiday. I especially was really looking forward to spending some time abroad. We eventually arrived at the airport, we checked in, went through all of the security checks, and were eventually on board a flight heading to the Bahamas. Luke's parents had kindly gotten us all business class seats, so the flight was really enjoyable. The flight was 4 hours long, so we were pretty happy when we finally arrived in the Bahamas. We collected our baggage, went through immigration, and eventually left the airport in a taxi heading for the resort we were going to be staying at. When we arrived, I was shocked by how nice everything was. It was easily the fanciest place I had ever stayed at. I knew Luke's parents were wealthy, but this was still so much nicer than I would have ever expected. We had our own little cabin with an incredible view of the ocean. Luke and I had our own room, which was nice. After we had unpacked, we started talking about what we wanted to do. I can't believe how nice this place is. What do you want to do first? I asked Luke. It is nice, isn't it? Do you want to go swimming? Luke said back to me. I thought about swimming. It would be nice as the ocean was super close to where we were, but I was still nervous about wearing a bikini. Could we leave that for another time? I'm sure there are other fun things to do, I said back. After some thinking, we both decided that we would go for a walk around the resort to explore what was there. It was honestly really relaxing. Just walking and talking with Luke, I was glad I had agreed to come. During our walk, Luke and I found an arcade which we ended up spending a few hours in. We were there for around an hour and probably spent close to $100. It was honestly a lot of fun though. After we finished there, we walked back to our cabin where Luke once again tried to convince me to go swimming. This time though, I agreed. It was starting to get really warm and a swim sounded nice and refreshing. I went into our bathroom and undressed, getting into the bikini afterwards. It felt really weird wearing something so revealing. It showed so much skin. I had never worn anything like it as a guy or a girl. Even though I didn't like how it felt wearing it, I have to admit it looked really good on me. I spent a few minutes staring at myself in the mirror, trying different poses. Eventually, I did leave the bathroom to see Luke. He was in his swimming shorts. Luke looked really happy to see me in the bikini. You look incredible, Danny, said Luke as he stared me up and down. Luke's comment made me feel pretty weird, so I did my best to try and ignore it. We then walked down to the water and got into the ocean. The water was a really nice temperature, so we swam out quite far. There were a lot of awesome fish around us, and it was a really cool experience. After the swim, we went back to our cabin. Luke's parents were both there, and they told us they had a reservation for a nice restaurant in an hour, and that we should change into something nice. Me and Luke went back to our room and started deciding what we would change into. I picked out a nice red dress that wasn't too revealing and paired it with some matching shoes. I hadn't really worn a dress before, so I was pleasantly surprised by how comfortable it was. The fabric was made out of a really nice material that felt so nice against my skin. I went out to see what Luke was wearing. He had chosen a smart-looking suit, probably what I would have been wearing if I was still a guy. Whoa, Danny, you look incredible, said Luke to me. Remember, we aren't actually dating and I'm not actually a girl. You don't need to be complimenting me constantly, I said back. It's hard not to when you look that good, Luke said back, to which I just rolled my eyes at. We then both went to see Luke's parents. I got compliments from both Luke's mom and dad about my looks, which was nice but also a bit weird. We then all went out to the restaurant. It was a nice place that served Italian food. I ordered a pasta dish, which was incredibly nice. After the restaurant, we all went back to the cabin where we ended the night with a board game. The next morning, we all woke up fairly late around midday. We had all been pretty tired from the previous day, so we had slept in a bit. Luke's parents told us that today we would be going on a private boat to explore some of the other islands around the Bahamas. It sounded like a lot of fun. Before that, though, we had to get ourselves ready. Luke and I took turns having showers, and we then got dressed. I decided to wear some short shorts with a nice vest top. I was also wearing my bikini underneath it all because Luke told me that we would probably be doing some swimming at some point. Eventually, when Luke's parents were also ready, we went to have our breakfast at one of the restaurants. Finally, at around 2 p.m., we were ready for the boat trip. We all walked down to the nearby harbor and found the boat that was going to be taking us around for the day. Luke's parents had been pretty harsh calling it a boat. It was massive, more like a yacht in my opinion. We all boarded the yacht and had a look around before we eventually left the harbor heading for the first island. Luke and I decided to sit in a sheltered spot at the front of the yacht. It had a great view, but also allowed us to not have to worry about the wind and water. After around 45 minutes of sailing, we arrived at the first island. We got off the yacht and had a quick look around before setting up a picnic to eat a packed lunch we had brought. It was a really nice time. Once we had finished eating, Luke and I left his parents to go and explore the island. We walked along the shoreline for a while and just talked. It was really relaxing. After a while, we did have to return to the yacht, though. We set off for a few more islands, but we didn't get off at any of them. We all decided that we liked being on the yacht, so we just sailed past and looked at everything. On the way back to the main island, we stopped at a coral reef where we were going to do some snorkeling. I took off my clothes, leaving just my bikini. When Luke was also ready, we put on snorkeling goggles and flippers and jumped into the water together. We swam around for what felt like forever, just admiring the sea life and coral. It was easily my favorite part of the holiday. I was so happy swimming around the reef. Eventually, we did have to go back to the yacht, though. We got back on board and let the heat from the sun dry us off as we sailed back to the main island. As we were arriving back into the harbor back on the main island, the sun was starting to go down. We had been out at sea for around 6 hours. It had gone so fast. As we all walked back to our cabin after the boat trip, I realized that I was not only starting to get more comfortable living as a girl, but I was also starting to really enjoy it. I wasn't sure how to feel, so I just tried to ignore it. After getting back to the cabin, we relaxed for a bit before going out for dinner again. It was pretty similar to the previous night, so I won't go into detail, but it was really nice. After getting back, we went straight to bed as we were all super tired from the crazy day we had just had. The next morning, we woke up nice and early for our last day in the Bahamas. We were going to be flying back to the US that afternoon, but we still had some time to do something in the morning. We had already decided that we were going to visit a museum. Not something I was really that interested in doing, but I didn't really mind. We prepared for the day the same way we had the previous day. We had showers, got dressed, and then went out for breakfast. Today, I decided to wear one of the more revealing outfits me and Luke had brought. It was a short skirt paired with a high crop top. It showed quite a bit of my skin, but by this point, I was starting to get more comfortable as a girl, and therefore didn't really mind. Honestly, I was starting to really enjoy the attention and looks I got from other people I saw. Once we had all prepared for the day and packed our things, we left our cabin and checked out of the resort. We then caught a taxi to the museum where we would spend our time until we would be flying back home. The museum was themed around history and was surprisingly really interesting. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would have. After we had all finished with the museum, we caught another taxi to the airport. We checked in for our flight, went through security, and then went to the airport lounge to relax. Eventually, it came time to board our flight. We got into our business class seats, and then began the long 4-hour flight back to our home. When we arrived back, it was already mid-afternoon. After going through U.S. immigration and leaving the airport, we all drove back to Luke's house. At Luke's house, we all helped unpack everything, and I thanked Luke's parents for the incredible holiday. Eventually, it was my time to head back to my own apartment, though. Luke offered to drive me back to my place and then help me switch back to my guy self. As we drove, we talked about the incredible holiday we had both just been on. It was easily the best holiday I had ever been on. Luke seemed to agree with me. He was also really appreciative of me agreeing to come as a girl. Honestly, I was just happy to have had the opportunity to go somewhere so nice for free. When we got back to my apartment, I unlocked the door and let us both in. Luke then gave me my guy clothes again and told me he had used the chemical on them, so I would switch back when wearing them. I thanked Luke and went to my bedroom to put them on. I undressed out of my girl clothes and started putting on my own clothes. I started with my t-shirt, which should have removed my female chest and changed my torso, except nothing happened. I waited for a few moments, thinking it was just being slow, but still nothing happened. Slightly panicked, I called out to Luke to tell him the clothes weren't changing me back. "Hey, Luke, the clothes aren't doing anything. I'm still a girl," I said through my bedroom door. "Oh, that's weird. Maybe I didn't put enough of the chemical on them. Pass them back and I'll add some more," he said back to me. I opened my door slightly and gave him back the clothes. I then heard Luke spray some more of the chemical on everything. He then passed them back to me. I then carefully put the t-shirt back on, praying it would change me back now. but once again, nothing happened. I was about to call out to Luke to tell him they still weren't working, but he started speaking first. "Oh no, Daniel, this isn't good. You're going to need to see this yourself," he said through my door. By this point, I was really starting to panic. I grabbed a towel to cover myself up, and then left my room to see what Luke wanted me to see. I walked over to Luke to see him holding the spray bottle with the chemical inside. He pointed to something on the back of the can and told me to read it. I read what it said out loud, starting to panic the more I read. This solution will become ineffective if the user has been in another body for more than 48 hours. If this happens, the solution will not work on anything else the user wears, it read. I stood there in shock after reading it. The shock that I might not be able to change back into my own body overwhelmed me, and I started to tear up. "Luke, why didn't you tell me about that? Now I'm going to be stuck like this," I said as I cried. Luke, by this point, had gone completely pale. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I didn't see that on the bottle until now. I genuinely had no idea," he said as he also started panicking. Over the next hour, Luke tried his best to comfort me as I came to terms with what had happened. He also kept apologizing to me. He promised me that he would try his best to find a way for me to change back, and if he couldn't, he would do everything he could do to support me. I appreciated that Luke seemed committed to help me, even if it was him who got me into all of this in the first place. I just had to hope Luke would somehow find a way to help me change back into my own body. This all happened around 3 months ago, and, well, I'm still a girl. Despite Luke's efforts, he wasn't able to find a way for me to change back. I was really upset about it at the time, but I've more or less accepted it now. Luke helped me change my whole wardrobe and redecorate my apartment to fit the new me, which was really nice of him, even if he was the reason this had happened in the first place. I had also gotten a new, better-paying job as a secretary at the same place I worked at as a guy. I was fortunate enough to get hired pretty quick, as my new boss definitely has a crush on me. Despite that, I'm still single and living on my own. I've thought about looking for a boyfriend, but I still don't think I'm ready for something like that. Despite everything that has happened, me and Luke are still really good friends. We've even linked up a few times. While I'm still not completely happy with my new life as a girl, I still think I prefer it over my life as a guy. When I was a guy, I didn't have a lot going for me. I wasn't that attractive or smart, and I was never really that motivated. Now that I'm a girl, I feel like I've started from scratch, so things can really only get better. I'm sure I'll eventually learn to love my new life. With enough time, everything will work out, I'm sure of it. Thanks for watching this video. We would really appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to our channel. The next series will begin in a few days. If you have any ideas for the story, let us know in the comments below.